Let's start with offensive coordinator Joe Brady. He made some waves with some of the comments that he made in his OTA press conferences. One of his notable quotes was, "This is Josh Allen's offense." And that is something that really stuck and resonated with me. I know it really stuck and resonated with a lot of people on social media. Dawson Knox, when he was made available to the media with Connor McGovern, he went even further and mentioned that Josh Allen is practically living in Joe Brady's office, and they are talking and communicating all the time about what Josh likes and what Josh doesn't like. And Joe Brady is taking the feedback from his players, quarterback included, and he is sort of using that to tweak and implement and install this new look Buffalo Bills offense. And one of the things from hearing from various different players, from Khalil Shakir to Dalton Kincaid to Dawson Knox to Josh Allen, you get the vibes from hearing from these players. They speak about Joe Brady as they just seem like they are bought into whatever it is that Joe Brady is trying to sell right now.
We talk a lot about execution on the football field, right? Making the difference between success and not. But
Mhm.
when you have an organization, when you're in the NFL, and when the roster's so large and the coaching staffs are so large, when you compare it to other sports like the NBA, where you have a 12-man team, 5 or 6 coaches. You have baseball, which is probably the next largest with 25-man roster, right? One, in several coaches. Football, you're talking about 53 guys that are on the active roster, plus practice squad, plus all the position coaches, plus, the assistants, etc. Like the vibes, the chemistry between players and coaches has to work, right? It's one of the ingredients, right, in the recipe for success for a football team. How much does it weigh from each team to each team? That depends, right? I think in some cases, when you have certain, players on the field, you can kind of have less maybe chemistry between players and coaches. But this year, I think is really important for the Bills and for Joe Brady and Josh Allen to have that chemistry, have those vibes together. We know Josh Allen was a supporter of Ken Dorsey. That's no secret. But it seems like there is more of a two-way communication happening now between Joe Brady and Josh Allen, who's the leader of this team,
Mhm.
than we've heard in the past. And even maybe even going back, this maybe didn't even happen with Brian Daboll either, right? Because that was a little bit more of like a sort of seniority, young player young player at the time. Josh is now a seasoned veteran. He is, right?
Mhm.
And Joe Brady had a stint as an offensive coordinator. This is now another chance for him. So these vibes seem to be working right now between Allen and Brady, and it's good to hear all this stuff. But now
Mhm.
that has to kind of translate to on the field, right?
Yeah.
That's the big question. Will it translate to on the field with all these new faces? So check the box for now. It's
Mhm.
good, but now we have to see it translate.
Yeah, and Brady highlighted all those things that sort of need to translate. He talked about the importance of understanding what the players are capable of and then tailoring the offense accordingly, because it's going to look a lot different. There's a huge void left by Stephon Diggs, that alpha receiver, no longer being a part of this offense. Gabe Davis, a guy who was a part of this offense for 4 years, no
Mhm.
longer here. And Brady sort of mentioned that the day he was speaking to the media, he talked about how Josh Allen and the other quarterbacks were focusing that day on connecting on some of their shorter routes.
Yep.
So maybe that's a little bit of a hint at some of the schematic changes the Bills offense in the Bills offense that we might see or be seeing in the year 2024.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? As good as the Bills' offense was, at times it did look like they were laboring, and
Mhm.
Josh Allen obviously can mask a lot of that. They were the number one third down offense in the NFL last year, conversion rate just under
Mhm.
50%. But at times it did not feel like that, right? At times it felt like the offense just couldn't get it going. And because we look at these other teams and we're like, God, it's so easy for these teams to just give these layups to their tight ends or to their running backs out of the backfield. And it's like, why can't the Bills do that? Some of these shorter passes, some of these concepts, some of these changes in schematics maybe are an effort to take some of the stress off of Josh Allen having to be Superman on every single play or bail the Bills out on every single 3rd and long. Like, make it easier for your star quarterback. We know he's so talented and he can mask a lot of issues and he can make plays off script, but like, why don't make it easier on him too,
Mhm.
right? So I hope that is something that the Bills kind of lean into. You don't want to become a dink and dunk offense, and I'm not saying
No.
that's what they will become, but you
Mhm.
want to be efficient. You want to have easy plays that are get guys in rhythm, get them into the game, build some momentum, right? And that's what we're
Mhm.
talking about here.
Yeah, you mentioned sort of efficient plays and setting up maybe some of the bigger plays by putting yourself in more advantageous positions. I was just listening to the bootleg football podcast with Brett Coleman and EJ Schneider the other day, and it was Buffalo Bills episode, and they
Mhm.
talked about the 2023 season and the differences between Ken Dorsey and Joe Brady, and a lot of the things that they were saying in this podcast mirrored some of the things that you heard from guys like Eric Turner and Anthony Prohaska all year long, where Ken Dorsey was a really good play designer, but it just seems like Joe Brady is a really good play caller, and he understands better how to sequence plays and how to have plays build off of one another. The offense, I think, in 2024 is going to transition to an offense that cares more about sustaining longer drives and maybe lessening the number of explosive shots that they take, but make sure that those explosive shots are still there, they're targeted, and even though they are taking less of them, the hope is that you will hit on them at a more efficient rate because of all the other things that you are doing. Establishing the run, using Josh Allen as a runner, more
Mhm.
underneath stuff that we just had talked about previous that Joe Brady was talking about installing. I think that is going to be the biggest change you see Josh have to make under Joe Brady. Maybe sort of the Kansas Cityanization of this Buffalo Bills offense. I mean, I think Connor McGovern even slipped up a little bit. He mentioned like, "Hey, we're going to run the ball more this year," and then he kind of like froze and was like, "Oh shoot, did I just say that?" Like, so I don't think
It's
the
okay,
Bills
Connor. Don't worry.
and
Everyone's talking at this time of year.
we had this conversation too. Like, we think the Bills are going to run the ball more in 2024. It doesn't mean they're going to run the ball like the like a team from 1994, right? Like, they're still going to be a predominantly pass team, but you might see more of an emphasis on putting yourself in more advantageous positions. The Bills got stuck in no man's land so much last year under Ken Dorsey between the 30 and the 50-yard line, where it's like, do we punt? Do we kick a long field goal? Do we go for it? Like, they got stuck there. And I think Joe Brady wants to make sure they are in second and short, third and short positions to where they don't have to get to fourth down. They don't have to make that decision. They can get closer, hope for the touchdown or kick field goals, and just keep continuing to put points and points and points on the board.
Yeah, or even in getting into 4th and 2s or less or 4th and
Mm-hmm.
1s, like, the Bills are gonna go for those more times than not. 4th and 4s, 4th and 5s, it's like, okay, now we kinda gotta make a decision. So, uh, I like what you said about the deep shots hitting on them more because it's like, let's say you took 100 deep shots last year and you hit
Mm-hmm.
on 10 of them, or you hit on 15 of them. Maybe you take 40 this year and you still hit on 15 or 20, like, you hit on the same amount at a higher efficiency, or maybe instead of 10 out of 100 or 15 out of 100, you hit on, 30 out of 60 or 30 out of 70,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something like that. So I am definitely open to that. The deep ball went missing from the Bills offense last year. And honestly, it like they were super inefficient
Mm-hmm.
at deep ball passing last year. So love to see that come back a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's all about points. And if whatever the formula is to get you in the end zone, that's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Some other offensive quotes that I thought were notable. Joe Brady, obviously, I think got everyone excited with the everybody eats mantra,
Yeah.
talking about all the receivers and getting their targets. Dalton Kincaid utilized the phrase, "We got a lot of selfless guys here." Khalil Shakir said, "What goes around comes around," meaning, hey, you go run a go route 15 times. You got to be prepared because one of these times that go route is going to come your way, and you got to be prepared to make that one play when the ball comes your way. Khalil Shakir also talked about learning every position, learning the X, learning the Z, learning the slot, being versatile. And he mentioned other receivers having to learn multiple positions and be versatile. So sort of the chess piece at the wide receiver position. And then Dawson Knox was talking about exploiting the matchups and the advantages that 12 personnel brings you. Hey, you want to play nickel on us? We'll use our 2 tight ends and we'll run the ball down your throat. Oh, you want to play base against us? You want to put me or you want to put Dalton Kincaid on a linebacker? Good luck. We're going to beat you over the top in the passing game. The mantra of wide receiver by committee, the idea of varied personnel packages going from, 10 to 11 to 12, just mixing and matching throughout offensive series, a more Kansas City like approach. All of those things are just getting, all those ideas and predictions are just getting louder and louder and louder the closer we get to training camp.
Yeah, and I like the talk about exploiting the matchups in that, depending on like the personnel packages. Whereas I felt like more with Ken Dorsey, and this has been reported as well, is like he was just trying to have a beater for every single play, no matter the personnel, right? And like sometimes you just gotta like make it simpler, right? And you just say like this is what we're gonna do personnel wise. We're not gonna try to necessarily make it too complicated for these guys, but instead we're going to dictate it more based on the matchups and sort of what we're seeing on the other side of the field than we are trying to just like make sure we have an answer on every single route combination for every single play. So I like hearing that. I think making it simpler conceptually should help. It should help guys play faster. It should help the mental side of the game, right? And so again, like you said, louder and louder. Like those are the things we want to continue to hear right now, and hopefully, again, it will translate.
Any final thoughts sort of on the offensive side of the ball before we move on to the defensive side of the ball?
No, but I do think what you see is it is going to be at least based on all these quotes we've just talked about, and right based on the personnel the Bills have, it is going to be. It feels like it's going to be a wide receiver by committee approach here. Um, it's not the days of old where you had that sort of running back who was 3 down back, did everything, and like those days were gone for the running back now, right? It went to this running back by committee sort of approach where you had like your early down guy, you had your pass catching guy, your 2-minute guy. The wide receiver room for the Bills this year kind of feels like it's going that direction, like wide receiver by committee. A lot of guys are going to contribute. Expect Kincaid to kind of be the leader of that group, but yeah, I think the Bills getting used to Stephon Diggs getting 115, 110 catches a year. Like, I think we're going to see something a lot different this year with this Bills offense.
This segment is from the Air Raid Hour podcast. The full show is live every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Cover One YouTube channel. Don't miss out.